In the town of Elmsridge, whispers danced like shadows around the house on Wither Hollow Lane. It had stood empty for nearly 50 years, ever since the Greys had inexplicably vanished one fateful night in 1972. Locals avoided it as if it were a plague, particularly the daring children who would never dream of trick-or-treating there, even on Halloween. The windows, boarded from within, wore a shroud of neglect, while vines twisted around the rotting wood, as if nature itself conspired to bury whatever secrets lay within. Lena, a spirited girl of 12, had just moved to Elmsridge with her father, a contractor hired to evaluate the dilapidated Grey property. She felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation as they stood before the sagging front gate, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. "We're just going in for a few hours. Stay close, and don't touch anything," he cautioned, his voice a blend of authority and anxiety. The air buzzed with unspoken fears, but Lena's curiosity clawed at her. As she crossed the threshold, a shiver crawled down her spine. The atmosphere inside felt alive, almost sentient, pressing in on her with a weight that was both suffocating and exhilarating. It was not just dust that hung in the air. It was the palpable sense that the house was aware of their presence, watching them with a gaze as penetrating as a hawk's. The smell of rot and iron struck her like a physical blow. The wallpaper drooped, peeling away in ribbons resembling dead skin, while the floorboards groaned beneath her hesitant steps. Her father's voice faded as he disappeared upstairs, leaving her to explore the darkened living room alone. It was then that she stumbled upon the pile of photographs, face down on the grimy floor, their edges curling like forgotten memories. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Lena flipped one over and froze. There she was, captured in time, standing in the very doorway she had just entered, wearing the same outfit she had donned that day. Her heart raced, a drum in her chest, as she turned another photo. Her father stood by the staircase, his face frozen in an expression of laughter. The next showed the two of them walking into the house, smiles wide and unaware. But the last one froze her blood. There she was again, staring down at the pictures. Just then she heard it, a creaking sound, not from upstairs where her father had gone, but directly above her. A slow, deliberate dragging that curdled her stomach. "Dad?" she called, her voice barely above a whisper, but no answer came. The dragging evolved into footsteps, each one resonating with a sinister intent, before a loud thud echoed through the hollow halls. Driven by a primal instinct, Lena sprinted towards the staircase, peering up. At the top a woman loomed, draped in a long black funeral dress, her face a grotesque canvas stitched closed where her mouth should have been. In one hand, she clutched a rusty sewing needle, in the other, a photograph. Lena's photograph. Panic surged through Lena as the woman began her descent, the sound of her heels cracking against the wood like thunder. Behind her, shadows flickered, revealing the figures of the Greys, their faces blank, their eyes sealed shut. Heart pounding. Lena turned to flee, but the front door had vanished, replaced by an impenetrable wall. Fear gripped her, but the photos on the floor began to shift, revealing horrifying scenes she hadn't lived yet. Herself screaming in the parlor, her father bound to a chair in the attic, the woman with the needle holding her own eyes in a glass jar, glimmering like cursed jewels. In that moment, Lena dropped the photographs and screamed, but the house swallowed her voice, leaving only silence in its wake. Somewhere deep within the walls, a dark presence began to stitch, careful and deliberate, as if it had awaited a long time to finish its sinister collection. The feeling of being watched intensified, and with it, Lena understood she was not just a visitor. She was part of the house's haunting legacy, woven into its dark tapestry of despair and longing. Once upon a time, under a somber gray sky, Elias Vane arrived in the quaint town of Elderwood. The air hung thick with anticipation and the scent of damp earth, a far cry from the bustling cities he was accustomed to. He was a folklorist, a man of academia, immersed in lore and legend, but not seeking the supernatural. Ghosts were merely tales he chronicled, not realities he expected to encounter. But Elderwood was unlike any place he had ever been. Its cobbled streets whispered secrets as he walked, the stone buildings looming like sentinels with wary eyes, watching his every move. The villagers spoke little, their hushed tones carried away by the chill breeze. When he inquired about the house at the edge of the forest, the innkeeper's voice turned into a dry rasp, akin to firewood crackling in an empty hearth. "You don't want to go up there. It remembers people," she warned, her eyes dark with unspoken stories. Intrigued, Elias felt a pull towards the ominous dwelling she spoke of, a place not marked on any map, a place where tales of curses and whispers intertwined. That very night, armed with a suitcase in one hand and a flashlight in the other, he ventured down the forest path. Mist rose from the earth, curling around the gnarled trees like ghostly fingers. The hoot of owls hung in the silence, while even the insects seemed to hold their breath as he approached. And then he saw it, the whispering house. Its white paint glimmered in the dim light, black windows staring back like hollow eyes, a roof that sloped too sharply, giving the impression it might collapse under the weight of its own secrets. The door creaked open without a sound, inviting yet foreboding. Inside, he found no dust, no cobwebs, only a sense of waiting. As if the house itself was prepared for a guest who had not yet arrived, or perhaps one who had come and never left. The Victorian furniture gleamed coldly in the lantern light. Mirrors hung at odd angles, capturing reflections that seemed to shift and shimmer, almost alive. He settled into the parlor, notebook and recorder at hand, eager to document the night's events. But his first night was eerily uneventful, the kind of quiet that felt almost mocking. The floorboards creaked in familiarity, and the wind whispered through the chimney like an old friend. Nonetheless, he found himself dreaming of mouths, countless lips without faces, whispering in a language he could not understand. When morning light broke through the gloom, he awoke to find his notebook open, a sentence penned in his handwriting. "The house listens." A chill crept down his spine, as he wondered what had transpired in the depths of his unconscious mind. Determined to uncover the truth, he ventured further into the house's shadows. Every morning brought new discoveries, words written in jagged script, not his own, repeating eerily, "It remembers your name." Doubt gnawed at him. Had he written these things in a trance, or was the house reaching into his very essence? Elias wrestled with the thought, torn between disbelief and the weight of his scholarly instincts. He plucked the page from the journal, folding it away in his coat pocket, as if to keep its secrets at bay. As days turned into nights, each room unveiled deeper mysteries. A small book lay open in the study, its fragile pages revealing the house's sinister past. "The house is oldest among us. It has no master, only mouths," the journal warned. Elias felt a cold dread settle in the pit of his stomach. But Elderwood began to change him. Each whisper grew clearer, pulling him into a web of hope and despair. One evening, as he recorded the ethereal voices, his own called out, "Don't leave." He had never uttered those words aloud. The house was alive, and it knew him. The deeper Elias delved into the house's secrets, the more divided he became. He encountered Mara, a woman drawn to the house's dark allure, yet her intentions remained shrouded in mystery. Together they shared identical dreams, frightening echoes of drowning and ash. The line between reality and the supernatural blurred as they unearthed the truth behind the house, discovering a history of missing children and lost names. With each new revelation, the house's grip tightened. Mara warned him of its reach, but he was already ensnared. The whispers demanded names, and he offered the innkeepers, only to wake the next day to find her erased from memory. The house consumed everything, leaving Elias and Mara to confront their own identities in a realm that twisted their perceptions. In a desperate attempt to sever their ties to the house, they performed a ritual, hoping to end its reign. Yet the maw of the house yawned wide, revealing an unsettling truth that sent them spiraling into chaos. The floorboards cracked beneath them, and the mirrors shattered, releasing a cacophony of screams as time warped and tore around them. As Elias confronted the manifestations of his fears, mirrored selves and the torment of forgotten names, the boundaries of his reality fractured. He was not merely an observer. He was part of the lore he had studied, entwined with the very essence of Elderwood. In the final moments, with the house's malevolence rising, he realized he must confront his past, embrace his own forgotten name, and in doing so, find a way to break the cycle. The echoes of the mouths faded into silence, leaving only the whispers of freedom as he turned away from the haunted halls, ready to reclaim his life beyond the whispering house.